So let me be really blunt with you. If you are sitting there right now Googling, are mortgage brokers in demand in the UK? What you're really asking is it safe for me to make this career move, or am I about to waste months studying CMAP for something that will never actually pay off? And I completely get that, because right now your head is probably full of noise because you've got one tab open talking about AI replacing mortgage brokers, another one saying the housing market is just slowing down or even crashing, and then someone on TikTok is telling you that they've just made 10K in the first month. And then you're right in the middle there thinking, I'm overwhelmed, I'm unsure, and I'm quietly thinking, am I making a massive mistake? So let's clear this up properly for you. Okay, so here's the outcome I want for you by the end of this video. You'll know clearly whether mortgage brokers are in demand in the UK, but more importantly, you'll understand where the real demand is, who actually succeeds, and how to position yourself so you don't become one of the people who quits within the first year, because that's the bit that nobody talks about. So are mortgage brokers in demand in the UK? Yes, they are. Of course they are, but not in the way that you're most likely thinking. You see, this isn't a show up and you get clients handed to you industry. It's one of those that if you're structured, you win. And if you're not, then you just disappear. Okay. And that's where most beginners, they fall apart instantly. So let me paint a picture for you. You pass your CMAP exams. Well done. I am so proud of you. You feel relieved. Maybe you're even a bit proud yourself because, like I said, that's fine. Then suddenly, silence. There's no clients. There's no clear plan of what you're doing next. You open your laptop, you stare at your blank computer and you think, what do I actually do now? And so you try to do a bit of everything. You post on social media, nothing really happens. You message a few estate agents because everyone's telling you that's a good idea and no reply. You speak to your friends, you speak to your family members, you have really awkward conversations and nothing really happens from it. No leads come in. And then slowly that initial excitement turns into doubt. And that's where people start saying there is no demand. But that's not true at all, okay? What they're experiencing isn't a lack of demand, it's a lack of structure. Because here's the real reality that people don't like to talk about, is that in the UK, there are millions of people needing mortgages every single year. Millions. That's first-time buyers, that's going to be remortgages, there's going to be home movers, there's going to be buy-to-let investors. There are so many of them. The demand for mortgage advice has not disappeared at all. If anything, it's becoming more complex, which is actually what increases the need for mortgage brokers. But, and this is the key shift that you need to understand, the demand is not for qualified brokers. The demand is for competent, visible, trustworthy advisors who can actually guide people through all that confusion. And that's a very different thing, because passing CMAP does not make you in demand. Knowing how to explain affordability very clearly to people who don't understand it, that does. Following up consistently, that does. Having a simple system for conversations, that does. Showing up regularly where your audience is, that does. See, let's talk about one of the biggest beginner pain points, exams. You see, you're probably either in the middle of your CMAP right now, or you're thinking about starting it. If you're Googling this question, that's likely the chance. And it's going to feel very heavy. It's really dry content. It's endless note-taking. Honestly, it's pretty boring. You're reading the same pages thinking, why isn't this sticking? I'm dyslexic. It's really, really hard. And that's the part in you wondering, what if I go through all of this and then nothing actually is at the end of it? And the truth with this is this: CMAP is not the hard part. It feels like it, but it's not, okay? The hard part, and I hate to tell you this, is what comes after. Turning your knowledge into real conversations with clients, turning those conversations into actual clients themselves who want to work with you, turning those clients into consistent income. And this is where the opportunity sits, because most people never actually build that bridge ever at all. They never do it. They get qualified, which is great, but they never become clear. They never become consistent. They never become visible. So yes, there absolutely is demand, but it flows towards people who solve the problems simply. So let me give you a real world scenario, hopefully to kind of unpack this a bit further. First time buyer is going to sit down in front of you, okay? And they are nervous. They're proper nervous, in fact. When you have them, you'll know. And because they don't understand interest rates at all. Been scrolling through forums for weeks. They've had conflicting advice from friends, from family members, and they are scared of getting it wrong. Now imagine two types of advisors. The first one speaks in pure just jargon, like awful. They're talking about LTV, stress testing, lender criteria without no context to the client. The client nods along, but they don't really understand anything they say. The second advisor, they slow it down. They explain it like this. Here's what you can afford. Here's what that looks like monthly. Here's the safest way to approach this. Here's what happens next. See, which one do you think gets the business? Which one do you think gets recommended, more importantly, to their friends and family? Which one builds demand around them over time? This is what I mean when I say demand exists, because it's earned through clarity. Now, let's address another big fear as well, because there's loads of them, and that is confidence. Because even if you know there's demand, which we've proven there, you might still be thinking, who am I to give advice? What if I say the wrong thing? What if I mess up? That's a big one. And this is especially strong in those first 2 years as an advisor. You sit on calls overthinking every single word you say. You hesitate before answering a question. I've done it. I've been there myself. You second guess yourself after every single sentence. And that is completely normal, to be honest. That's absolutely fine. Don't worry about that. But there is a shift that you can do. You see, confidence doesn't come before action. It comes from structured repetition. If every day you wake up thinking, what should I be doing today? Then you're going to stay stuck. But if instead you follow something really, really simple, something like speak to 3 new people, follow up with 5 existing leads, create 1 piece of content explaining something really, really basic, suddenly those things start to move. Not dramatically at first, no, not at all, but they will do consistently over time. And consistency is what builds demand around you. I'm a living proof of that. I do that every single day for that reason. So now let's talk about the market itself. Yes, interest rates have changed. Yes, affordability is tighter. Yes, some buyers are actually hesitating. But what does that actually mean? Well, it actually means that people need more guidance now than they ever needed before, not less. See, when things are really, really simple, people go direct to their bank. But when things are confusing, they look for the help they need. So ironically, now is the time that it's actually better. The more complex the market becomes, the more valuable a good broker becomes. But again, only if you position yourself correctly. So let's tackle another beginner issue. Leads. Leads is another one, because this is where the reality is going to hit you like a ton of bricks. I remember this myself. You see, you will finish studying and then you will ask, how do I get my clients? Where do they come from? And what do most people do here is that they absolutely scatter. They do a bit of Instagram, they do a bit of networking, they do a little bit of referrals, or they try at least. There's no consistency going on at all. There's no system at all. There's just pure hope and praying. And that hope, by the way, that's not a strategy. Instead, you need something really simple again. What a shock. 1 primary lead source, 1 conversation structure, 1 follow-up process. That's it. That's all you have to have. Not 10 strategies, not a million different ways, not endless tactics that you've seen on TikTok that make you feel like you're hacking something. Just 1 thing done properly. For example, you decide to focus on first-time buyers. Okay, you create content answering their real, and this is important, real questions. You speak to people daily, even if it feels uncomfortable. Push yourself out of your comfort zone. If you follow up properly, then you follow up correctly and you improve your conversations every single week. Now, suddenly what starts to happen is you're not chasing demand. You're now starting to build it. Yes, slowly, that is true, but you are building it. And this is the difference between struggling brokers and successful ones. It's not about intelligence. It's not about who can say the smartest stuff. It's definitely not about luck. It is all about structure. And here is the uncomfortable truth that people don't like to talk about, is that a lot of people enter this industry expecting it's going to be a quick result. They see the income potential and they think it's immediate. And they're like, I'm going to do that. But the early phases are slow. They're brutal. You'll have days where nobody replies to you. You'll have calls where they go absolutely nowhere. You will question yourself constantly. And that is part of the job. The people who win are not the most talented. Please understand that. The ones who keep showing up with a plan, they're the ones who win. So are mortgage brokers in demand in the UK? Yes, they absolutely are. Massively. There's so much demand out there right now, but it's not passively. They're not walking through your front door and just needing a mortgage. So if you want demand to exist for you, you need to have 3 things. You need clarity in how you communicate, consistency in how you show up, and structure in what you do every single day. Everything else is just background noise. If you focus on that, you'll do well. And if you are at the very beginning thinking about CMAT, worrying about whether to commit, here is my advice. Stop trying to predict the market. Start preparing yourself to operate within it, however it works, because the markets are always going to change. But the need for clear, for calm and structured advice, that doesn't go anywhere. So don't ask yourself that question, is there demand? Ask yourself this, am I becoming somebody that people would trust when they need help? Because that's the real question. If you want to know what the first year as a mortgage advisor is like, check out this deep dive video that I've done on that, exactly that, breaking it down on a whiteboard so you can see all the highs and lows, so you can be really, truly aware of what's going to come your way. If you choose to make this career, give it a click.